started. Welcome to Cafecito Chats. Thank you for joining us. Today's topic, talking about technology and being challenged, right? This week, if you weren't paying attention, we're here to tell you that there was a new application, artificial intelligence, that hit the market, right? And it's called DeepSeek. And that particular DeepSeek application is coming from China. And not only did it disrupt the actual industry of tech, but it also disrupted the stock market. Interestingly enough, economically, it tumbled quite a bit of those shares. So the big, strong individuals that are actually spending billions of dollars in microchips and GPUs and whatnot have been brought down a little bit, like between 15 to 20% of their price by this DeepSeek application, artificial intelligence, that was released in December 26th, I believe it was, over in China in 2024. And it hit the market really hard. And now, about a month into its livelihood or into its infancy, it has definitely shown some definite situational awareness for those big tech companies. So one of the big things that we want to discuss here is, have you tried it? Why did it shake the market, be it the industry as well as the economics market? And is this something that will hold out strong? And what could be possible repercussions of or potential for this technology moving forward? We've heard of ChatGPT, which is one of the stronghold artificial intelligence. We already discussed this ChatGPT about a year ago here in Cafecito Chat. So now we see that ChatGPT is definitely being challenged by artificial intelligence in its own field, DeepSeek. So I'm going to just throw out there that this DeepSeek technology is something that was born and it's regulated by the Chinese government. It's nothing necessarily bad if you're a Chinese entity, if you're a Chinese corporation, but at a world global level, you have to be aware that whatever you put in there, whatever information is entered into that particular application will be, and is stipulated in their regulations, that it will be stored in Chinese servers. And China, the Chinese government, regulates heavily all the information that is available at and owned by a Chinese corporation. So that being said, in contrast to ChatGPT, it is a free open AI system. It is not necessarily shared with the government. It is stored in the US if you're using ChatGPT. So for that effort, ChatGPT will respond to a lot more global questions. We did a test and we asked some Chinese history about the Tiananmen Square from DeepSeek, and DeepSeek responded saying, I do not want to respond to that particular topic. Let's move on to a different thing, which indicates that it is being regulated. It is being regulated and it is being monitored, and the capability of what it can and cannot respond to is something that you have to be wary of, right? Whereas ChatGPT, you pretty much ask anything of it, it will seek out the World Wide Web and provide whatever information is applicable and more closely related to the question that can be responded with that pertinent information. You can refine with ChatGPT what you're seeking, but with DeepSeek, I don't know. It's in its infancy. Another thing that I am interested in is I saw a post from AMD, which is a chip computer maker here in the US, indicating, and they did this before this week, they indicated this, that they are integrating DeepSeek into the usage of their systems. I saw that, I was interested, and I reached out to some individuals that I know that work within AMD. They validated, they corroborated that that is something that the company AMD is testing out. What the real outcome of it will be, I don't know. If they're regulating and actually storing in a safe server the information that AMD is using in collaboration with the DeepSeek open application, I am not aware of at this point. But this is going on, and this is how the market is moving as far as the industry goes. So I thought it'd be an interesting topic to bring to the table. And I'm just gonna ask, and let's see, Elias, since you're in fintech, have you actually started seeing DeepSeek versus ChatGPT experience using it at a personal level, at a corporate level? What have you experienced so far with this type of artificial intelligence, be it ChatGPT or the Open AI DeepSeek? Over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So this conversation is super interesting. I can't speak to it for corporate level, but I can speak to it from personal level. And I have a lot of friends that are currently building, they call them micro SaaS startups, software as a service. And essentially they're just building AI agents that can perform mundane tasks to automate certain aspects of people's businesses. And they're using models like ChatGPT, for example. They just came out with something called Operator. So they're using like that, and they're building out their own APIs and tech stacks with that. So I haven't personally used DeepSeek, but again, I know it's like the talk of the town, especially all over different forums that I'm reading. And particularly, I think it's very useful, but I think you touched on something very important, which is the privacy policies. So if you use DeepSeek directly from their user interface, you're essentially signing up for your information to be stored in a Chinese server, right? People are saying that your information is only going to be stored in your local machine, but that's not necessarily the case, at least from what I'm hearing from my engineering friends that actually work with this day to day, which is why most people are staying away from it. But there are several different ways you can go about that. And like, you guys can feel free to message me offline as to how to, if you want to work with it, there's a way to use the actual engine without using their actual, like the boundaries that they provide you, right? So you can use a different program and different configurations, but still use the same language model to provide the same results, but your data won't be sent out somewhere you don't know where. Now, I do want to talk about like what is the implications of this, because I feel like 2 weeks ago we didn't talk about this, but there was news that like TikTok being banned in the US,
Correct.
right? And that was huge. I think the same thing is happening with this. It's still a little early, but given that the data that you're providing can hypothetically be sent out to China, which was the same exact reason why they wanted to ban TikTok, I believe something's going to happen in the next coming weeks that they might prevent US citizens to stop using DeepSeek, because it also causes, so like Elon Musk always says that competition is very good, but when it comes to like policy and security threats, I think that's where they draw the line. And that's why I also think that the stock market tanked, because a lot of venture capital people were very scared. So everyone's investing all this money into AI. But as soon as you hear the news that something can be a potential threat, then like people panic sell in the stock market. And that's why we saw the drop. So I think that's like the two reasons why we saw those drops. It was one, because all of a sudden we have this huge competition to the biggest AI model, ChatGPT or OpenAI. All of a sudden we have a competitor just like a few days or a few weeks after the election, which it's like a big puzzle that I keep seeing, right? There's so many different aspects to it. But I think ultimately, like we might not see DeepSeek for too long. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Elias. Thank you. Now, Mina, you put in the comment box that you're very new to this product and will definitely need to go deeper in further understanding before you apply this to your educational training module. So, can you share some insights, some possible concerns, some possible questions that you might have to the group?
Oh, yes, and thank you, Lazaro. Good day to
Good
everyone.
day.
Um, Geez, my personal background is in administration management in the aerospace and satellite industry, where I retired from, and most recently in protocol services under my business name, Prestige Protocol. And hearing you all about this, and especially what both you and Elias has said, is beyond me. And I'm going to need to be, on my toes to understand, because from what I'm hearing, there are very well-versed people. And with China taking over this, I'm very concerned for the small business owners. Me being one of them in training. So I'm an educator. I'm
Right.
an etiquette educator. And, I operate as a small business, and there are many challenges that we run as an entrepreneur. And as it is, trying to operate a small business and staying up to par, just this month alone, just to give you an example, the operating expenses, the website, the what is it called? There's about 3 or 4 other things that line up that are subscriptions to run my business, and all of that, $3,000 just this month alone. Because you have 500 here, 348 here, 379 here. Did they just do dollars under the 400 or the 800 mark? And when you think
Mm-hmm.
about that, when you're first having to start the business, which I did this year, in June will be 13 years.
Wow.
And so it's hard for me to want to serve on other boards and because they invite me to, as an educator and etiquette. And I say, I would love to spend my time there and all, but the administration of my business takes time. And it's like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get the experiences that I learned from these past activities that I did at work, which was training. I did, so significant amount of training things and keeping schedules and what have you, which could be tedious. And so being a business owner 24/7, I go to sleep with some headaches and I wake up like, 3 days without sleeping. That's not the way to go, when we're running a business. And now this AI, I, I have been kind of like mentioned, and goes, I saw somebody say exactly what you said at your training. And so it's someone else saying my how can I say this?
Your
My delivery,
material, right?
my delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so that's kind of scary. And to me, I'm, like I said, officially into my 13th year, and I've been very skeptical. Do I want to continue? Because this is why I don't put my pricing on there. I do have courses once I line up and I says, okay, this course is going to be 45 for the youth. This is going to be 85 for the adults. That's where I go to the extent of my pricing. But for me to lay it all out and just so someone else to copy and paste, no, 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 señor. So I'm hesitant for a lot of those reasons, and managing my own, uh, business products. I also have some products that I'm putting up there this year, which was the goal for us. And we've been working all alongside, and I'm like, I don't know what AI could be worth for me or not. And I certainly don't plan to do any investing in it.
Okay. Okay.
Very
Thank you.
interesting.
Thank you, Mina. And Elias, I know you're here for a short time. Thank you for joining us. But I want to take advantage of having you here since you're more in the fintech. What possible obstacles and or possibilities does the new AI technology offer for common individuals such as ourselves that are not necessarily very savvy in a lot of high technology, but what could this entail for us? And particularly the use of Chat GPT and or DeepSeek for that matter. Over to you.
Yeah, of course. Well, Mina, thank you for sharing that. And I was just thinking as you were speaking. So there's 2 parts. First, I want to say that people don't really understand. People are not ready for what's actually coming. Like when it comes to AI, I think we're still like just like the average person walking on the street doesn't really know how significant the world is going to change in the next decade, right? Because of artificial intelligence and the compound effect of like how fast we're actually developing these things and how much better they're becoming just week after week. So I think for you, Mina, for your business, I think instead of being afraid of it, we should start asking like, how can I just like, if I can't beat them, how can I join this movement? How can I apply these things into my business? Because maybe we can build something for you where you can automate a lot of the administrative tasks and streamline the process. So like I would love to chat with you maybe offline just for some ideas that I think we can just bounce off of each other. But when it comes to like actual fears or what does this mean for us, especially in fintech or in the corporate world, I think we're still a little early. I think most companies have really important like safeguards and restrictions when it comes to using LLMs. I know LPL, only one team in my entire company has access to ChatGPT because again, no one really knows where is that data going, right? Like that, I'm not sure they've developed a system where you can like talk to these LLMs with your corporate information, and then it ends up being just like on your own machine. I think when you insert your information, and when you, let's say I'm copy pasting a certain piece of code to help me code, right? That information is going on their server. So now that company has legal rights to my content, right, to the material. And I think that's what companies are afraid of, and obviously employees as well. The biggest thing I would say is AI is coming, like whether we like it or not. Like the tsunami is coming, and I always say like, no matter what, the tsunami is coming. So you want to learn like just learn how to surf, right? Like right now is a good time to learn how to surf because if you know how to surf the wave, then you're gonna leverage and you're gonna have a great time with AI. But if you don't know how to learn how to surf when the wave is coming, you're probably gonna get like crashed and you're gonna get hurt. So AI is coming. I think we should not be afraid of it, but I think we should start to study it at least to be able to hold a conversation about it. Like I'm not telling you to go learn how to build your own model. You don't have to learn how to code. You don't have to be an engineer, but be able to understand like what is this? How does it work? If somebody asks me like, oh, have you heard about this? Can I carry a decent conversation about it? And then slowly begin to kind of annotate and take notes as to how can I implement these different things in my personal life, right? In my business or for me, I'm trying to build something that can automate my to-do list, right? By just speaking into it. Like what are things in my life that I can start to automate just to kind of get into the rhythm of AI? So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, Lázaro.
Yeah, that answers the
Yeah,
question. That answers the question.
yeah.
I also see a concern from Lourdes Sarmiento. Do you want to turn on your mic, or I can read your concern?
Yeah, I can do it. I just know that for AI to work at the speed that we want it and it is available now, right, and how efficient it does take a lot of energy, right? Like it creates a lot of energy, then that leads to
Yeah.
cooling, like data centers and stuff. And it's more of a concern, environmental concern, just because of the population of how much water it takes to cool it, of all this other stuff. Granted, we already have our own issues in California, with the fires, with everything. It just like, my concern is like, are we seeing the full picture? Because sometimes we create something that's
Absolutely.
so innovative and so amazing, but we don't see the consequences till like 5, 10 years down the road.
That is true. Yeah. Any
Absolutely
insights on
right.
that, Elias?
No insights on how to actually tackle that problem. She's absolutely right though. Especially with like this new administration, right? And I keep bringing it up to this because these things are happening every day. If we're reading online, they're creating this project called Stargate, right? Where they're getting like the top players in AI in the United States, and they're creating a new program called Stargate. Essentially, our government is investing $500 billion to build out these data centers, these data warehouses that are going to host these next AI models. And she's absolutely right. It's like, if you look at the map, it's like acres and acres of just servers and data centers, which take up material space using like actual resources, like, metal, electricity. So it's very, very interesting to see how they're going to tackle that. The only question I have it, like, what I question is, I'm sure they thought about that. And if they haven't, then pride and greed will always be like the destruction of mankind,
Yeah.
So because we want to be the best, that pride alone can probably come back and bite us in the what a few years down the line. So
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns, but I know for a fact that it's not going anywhere, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah, it's just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger, and
Exactly.
like you said, Elias, you might as well try to understand slowly, as Mina indicated, deep, tip your toes into AI and try to experiment with ChatGPT, at least doing some sort of research or asking some questions, or as Mike Cruz alluded to, he asked what type of good readings are there available for understanding
Yeah.
or comprehending AI and its possible regulations at this point. I think regulations are very minimal, honestly, because it's a very brand new technology. So
Yeah.
it's literally the wild west for this type of
Yeah.
technology, to be honest with you. But there are a little bit of articles out there that you could definitely read about, and I'll definitely send those over to you, sir. I'm gonna tap into some of the student population here. I see David Ramos and also Edgar Verastegui. So I'm going to start with David. Thank you, David, for joining us. Thoughts on ChatGPT and also DeepSeek? Any thoughts on either or of those platforms or artificial intelligence operating systems?
Yes. So I literally just found about like DeepSeek and ChatGPT, like the whole deal with it, like yesterday.
Okay.
I was in class, and then the professor, he started talking about like DeepSeek and like ChatGPT. I wasn't really paying attention until like after like I started seeing more videos about it. Like, oh my, like what happened? Like there's this like competition of like I saw a meme of like basically like first time of AI getting put out of job, which I thought was funny, but it's like this is like impressive in a way of like how they managed to do it, and yeah, like just hearing you guys talk is like it's like making me more like aware of what's going on or what like could happen, or like like just like seeing it in like this side. But yeah, it's just everything was new to me like just yesterday, and I started just seeing videos about it like this morning and yesterday night. But yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
And like the professor, he was talking about it, and like because I'm taking a signals class. I forgot the name of it, but the professor, he said like he was like kind of excited to share the news because it's like something that could be applied and into like art class, and that is very heavily applied in art class, and like he knows that a lot of students use ChatGPT, so it's just something like that a lot of students were were intrigued. Like they were like, oh, like yeah, like they knew about it, not me, but
Okay.
but yeah, it was interesting.
Okay. Thank you, David. Thank you for that insight, that perspective. Definitely understanding that you're getting, as a student, some sort of awareness is interesting. And to see and hear from you that your professor is really excited about this AI technology, be it ChatGPT and or DeepSeek, is also interesting at the academic level. Let me see, Edgar Verastegui. What are your thoughts, and what have you heard, and what concerns do you possibly have? One, with artificial intelligence in general, and the other one is versus ChatGPT versus DeepSeek. Edgar,
Muy buenas tardes.
buenas tardes.
¿Cómo estamos todos?
Muy bien, todos bien por el momento, gracias.
No, sí. I heard of the news, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I think like besides the whole AI talk, this has a lot of implications for, I think, more so the U.S. stance on AI, which I think is kind of extreme, and I don't know if it's in the best interest of the United States or everybody. So what I think kind of happened, and kind of Lourdes is hinting at it, that we overspent way too much money in investing and through the government. At least it feels to me that just dumping money at the problem isn't going to necessarily improve it linearly. And I think that, I mean, what we know is that in a free market, things develop naturally when there's smart people trying to make better things, not necessarily when they have more money. And I think we see that the Chinese have some very good engineers, and they were able to pull off this feat with limited resources because they had the interest, and over time we'll just see the development from everybody, I suppose. And so I think kind of on the US side, we spent a lot of money on NVIDIA, like, come on, make us something better. But we didn't stop and think who's gonna actually come up with the ideas and develop these actual ideas. And then of course there's the problem of the energy. And so we have these goals to develop this huge technology that we don't have the infrastructure to support. And so kind of what I feel from all this is that we need to give it time to grow. not necessarily dump a ridiculous amount of money, and kind of, and then there's the whole that it's an open system. DeepSeek is open AI or open source, so people are going to be able to innovate off of that. So I think right now there was the giant behemoth of an AI, and now it just branched into two, and it's gonna branch into four, and it's gonna keep branching. And I don't necessarily think it's gonna chase the money. It's kind of what I'm saying. But I don't know. I think it's gonna be crazy. I think it's gonna change everything. And I don't know how to feel about the data collection and what the possibilities are of kind of an entity being able to observe everybody and then have the high intelligence to maybe start predicting what these people are doing. So it can be very dangerous. And I think it's better that there's more models and more companies that will allow us to not give all the information to one company or entity. And that's what I got to share for now.
Awesome. Thank you, Edgar, for that insight. I'm going to make a little pause here to talk about the money and the claim that this particular achievement with DeepSeek was less costly than the ChatGPT or current AI technology in the US. Just a little disclaimer, I'm not sure, but just this is my thought, my personal opinion. We've seen that China, fudges and they claim certain things. So my assumption is that there's more money behind it. Somebody probably funded a lot more and put more efforts into it. And to make it seem like, hey, with minimal resources, we were able to create this, that in a sense created a tumble in the market, right? So I'm not sure that there were really limited resources, because to create something like this, as you alluded to, Edgar, you have to have a group of engineers to be able to do this. And that group of talented engineers obviously comes with a cost and a price. But as we know, China likes to make certain claims to make themselves look outstanding and look good. I'm not saying that they're not, but it just financially that could have, and that's why we saw a lot of repercussions economically in the stock market. That being said, having this type of open AI technology, you're right. If anybody can copy paste it, you can definitely go ahead and replicate some of it. And as Elias was alluding to, you can modify it to fit your actual requirements or needs at that point. But you have to be careful. There might be some what we call Trojan horses inside of that code or some of that infrastructure. So you got to be careful on how you do it and what you do. So, just that's my personal take on it. And I see Lourdes and David Ramos. So we'll go with Lourdes and then we'll get David. Lourdes?
I just wanted to contribute to something I believe Edgar said, where it's like AI can be used in so many ways, but there's so many people who can use it irresponsibly. Like there's a lot of college students who just want to take the easy way out and like not study or understand the things well enough, and they just use AI to just pass, right? It makes it more of a concern, like for engineering, right? Like you really have to understand it, so in the industry you are doing something. And it's like, what are the repercussions of that? Or like, we're not seeing that right now, but we might see it in like a couple of years, Right. It's just more of it depends on the user and the responsibility of the user, which opens a lot of doors for good and for bad.
Right.
So
yeah, thank you. And that's a great concern, a great point. Right now we're in this early stages, and as I mentioned earlier to Mr. Mike Cruz, there's really no regulation, and academia is trying to get their arms around of how the heck do we cope with this, because if you go to ChatGPT or if you go to DeepSeek and you say, hey, respond or solve this particular equation for me and provide me with an explanation, all I can do as a student is put that in, copy paste it, put it into my response, submit it. I spent 30 seconds to possibly a minute trying to craft that question so that ChatGPT or DeepSeek or that AI platform could give me a response that otherwise would have taken me 2-3 hours to solve. if I sat down and actually did the work. And I could just, go and do something else, but at the same time, I get an engineering title and I graduate with honors, quote unquote, right? And all of a sudden I get a job, but at the end of the day, when I'm trying to build an aircraft and try to do this, ChatGPT and or artificial intelligence right now are not available at all those industries. How are you going to be able to solve those real life problems when it's not something that's going to be quote unquote in a textbook per se, right? So that's a concerning good point there, Lourdes. And let's go shift over to David Ramos. You had your hand up earlier, sir.
Yes. It's leading off on Lourdes, like what you said, and like the concern of like students using like AI, and it's like for me, like what I find like as for students, the point of view of students is that like since like I heard that it's practically like free. What's the name? DeepSeek. DeepSeek.
Yep.
Since it's practically free, then like students are like, and like the way I see it, like a lot of students are gonna start using that. Now the issue is that it's like, well, it's just for me. I don't really use ChatGPT because then like sometimes whenever I try asking questions, like they just like it's not really like they don't really explain it well, and not only that, but like they get the answers wrong, and like it's like they do it like a very random way, and like for me the way I do it is from like the professors, or sometimes I have my friends explain it to me like how like it's actually done. So for me, I can't really use like AI even if I wanted to, but like I feel like a lot of students they're gonna heavily rely on it, especially like for engineering as well, and like I don't know, it's like the way I see it is like it's just gonna a lot of students are gonna start using more or depend on AI, and especially DeepSeek since like it's relatively more cheap. So that's just like I just wanted to put that out. But yeah, that's the perspective as a student, and like overall, it's not good. Like overall, it's not good for the future, for like future engineers, future like STEM majors.
Thank you for your input, David. That's great insight, great perspective. Mr. Mike Cruz, you had your hand up, sir. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I wish I had my daughter here. She teaches for San Diego City Schools, and she has just been assigned to an AI task team for San Diego City Schools. They're behind the Powerball.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids have access to it, and the teachers don't know. What do we do with it?
Right.
My daughter got her master's in applied educational technology, which is computers in the classroom. So she knows a little bit about software. And the schools are recognizing that it's here. The kids are using it, but there's no rules or regulations around the school system now. And she's on a task force right now trying to put all that together. I wish I had her here to comment on that, but from my perspective, listening to her, they've got an issue. Yep. And they're trying to address it. And
right. Yeah. And going back to Elias's earlier point, ChatGPT and or artificial intelligence is in its infancy. And honestly, when you open the bottle, the genie pops out. It's really hard to put the genie back into the bottle, right? So to Mina's question, how can I learn more about this? What can I do? And how can I possibly leverage some of it, right? The more we talk about it, the more we at least, commonly understand this whole perspective of what can AI do for me, or how can I leverage it in a beneficial form for us. It could definitely be a positive, but it could also be a negative. As I was telling my wife, ChatGPT is good and bad, because whatever you ask it, it will respond. It does not discriminate one way or another. If you ask it, how can I, create, quote unquote, a bomb, it'll definitely tell you, use this chemical, grab this amount of things, you could use household items, etc., etc. This is an example. This is what we've heard, right? This is individuals that can actually go back and ask it. It's something that happened over in Las Vegas just about a month ago or less than a month ago. This is the reference that I'm making. This was real. This happened. And that individual actually asked ChatGPT. And I told my wife, ChatGPT is non-discriminant. It will not know between good and bad. It will tell you the response that you ask for. It will give you opportunities to make you as the individual make that decision. How do I want to utilize it? Going back to Lourdes's point, a student can ask it questions. It can ask it to solve the entire problem, or you as a student can say, you know what, I want to learn. Can you teach me how to solve a problem? Give me an example. And you can definitely look at things like that as a tool to enhance your learning and understanding, or you could simply use it as a cheat sheet of give me the response to this particular problem. It will give you either or. Going over to the DeepSeek effort that has been going on at this point, this one's a little more concerning because going back to Mr. Cruz's point, there's no regulation. So this particular DeepSeek technology is open source, but it is regulated by the Chinese government. So for this one, whatever you put into it, and if you download the application, nobody reads the privacy statements that any particular application shows you on the download portion, and you simply scroll down, and you say, I agree to whatever statement there is. Well, in that particular privacy statement, it indicates that the Chinese government is regulating this data, and anything that you put in or enter or utilize to operate this particular application is fair game for them. In a sense, when you download it to your phone or to your laptop, desktop, you're giving the Chinese government access to go ahead and peruse and navigate your entire folder system within that particular drive that you have. They have access to your full name, your credit cards, your date of birth, your personal sensitive data. Whether you really agree to it or not is besides the point, because you clicked on agree on that particular privacy statement. So you waived all your rights. I'm not saying that ChatGPT or any other open source does not have those, but in particular, the Chinese government is something that we've been really aware of that is very, very sensitive for a lot of people at this point, right? So I'm going to see Maria Rios, any thoughts from your perspective, since you're dealing with the realtor and property, real estate and property management and sales, and what is going on from your perspective in regards to ChatGPT and or DeepSeek from your perspective?
Yes, hi Laszlo. Hi everyone. So actually it's interesting. I think AI being used in real estate is something still really new, to be honest. I think it hasn't really caught up, but I know that we have to work with companies, especially with the escrow companies, when you guys make the deposit, right? Make your transfer when you're buying a house. Mm-hmm. So that we have to be aware, because there has been a lot of scams, and this is part of it too, right? So I don't know what implications it might have if people are downloading, this app, and then it has all your financials. So, like, at least for myself, at least I don't know a lot of it yet, but specifically if someone has a lot of your data, and especially a foreign country, I wouldn't download it, just for my personal reasons, because I think I have more to lose than to gain right now. Mm-hmm. With what is known, and specifically also like the markets, right? It hit the markets. NVIDIA just lost so much money. I think it's back up 9% again, but I think it's just a wake up call for the U.S., because we always think U.S. great, education, and probably we need to start working or funding more into our education, right? No one talks about it, like, oh, we want great, but no one talks about the infrastructure and what is needed and changing education. Hopefully that's the key, right? We need to change education at the bottom and start from there. So anyway, that's really my perspective. But and real estate, I think it's still not used as much, at least not yet. because it's relatively new.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. And you bring an interesting point. You know, when you actually download, going back to my original comment, when you download the application or the app for DeepSeek or any particular app onto your phone, you and your phone, you have personal data. You also have
Jeez.
banking applications. You have
Yeah.
credit card information. So if you agree to that privacy statement and you waive all your rights, if I created that application and you said I waive all my rights, I'm pretty much going to go into Mr. Mike Cruz's files and see how much money he has and see if, all of a sudden I can squeeze a little bit here and there. Maybe he won't notice it. And by the time he notices it, it'll be too late. And he might say to his bank, Wells Fargo or U.S. Bank of America, he might say, hey, I didn't authorize this transaction. They might go back and say, hey, what happened here? And all of a sudden you see that, there's this privacy waive, right, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're going to be able to, we're not going to be able to help you because this came from your phone, who you authorized this particular entity to manage your portfolio in that manner. So that it's just a weird example. I don't know if it has happened.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. But you bring a valid point there, Maria. That's great insight. Yeah, so a little bit, yes.
Just be careful.
Yeah, just be careful. Edgar, you have your hand up, sir? And we'll close it out.
Yeah, I think this reminds me a lot of the TikTok fiasco that happened back in the day. And, I never downloaded that one on my phone because of the same exact reasons. But then what happened, Instagram turned into TikTok, YouTube turned into TikTok. And I'm talking more the interface. And so I think kind of what we can take from this is that maybe even if we don't see DeepSeek and it goes away, we're going to see whatever innovations it developed into our models, which I think is good either way. But yeah, we kind of have to look at what's coming. Maybe that's a clue into what's coming just because how disruptive it was.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that information, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I brought it to the table. This is fresh off the market, literally. So I thought, okay, let's have a discussion to see where everybody level sets at and everybody's understanding. And I'm not an expert on artificial intelligence, but I can definitely see ChatGPT and DeepSeek are the main platforms, the main operating systems that are being flown out there. I'm pretty sure there's others, and there's developers that are coming up with variations of them. But I don't know if it'll stop. I don't think it'll stop. But let's go around the room. Any final comments, Mr. Mike? Mina, any final comments? Okay. Edgar, any final comments?
Real quick, I would suggest just practice using it. I think just messing with it is the way you'll find out what it's capable of doing.
Okay.
And like, for example, I asked it to evaluate a computer with a bunch of parts, a bunch of part names. And it told me, like this part goes really well with this one. And then at the total, it gave me, this is a 9 out of 10, like complete build. So like, it completely analyzed a parts list, which could have taken a lot of research to figure out. That's one example.
Okay.
There's many more I could think of, but.
Awesome. Thank you, Edgar. Any final thoughts from David?
No, not really. Just listening to everything. I really don't have any thoughts other than just like listening to others and like their perspective.
Okay.
Because I don't know much about the whole like ordeal with this. I find it interesting though. I do really find it interesting because it's like we're going into like a new phase, like in the 90s of like technology. It's just like a new phase of technology, something like that's very different.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, David. Great insight. Maria, any final thoughts from you?
No, actually, no, not much. But well, maybe I'm always wonder, where do you actually go find out? Because I've seen sometimes courses where it's like, you should learn this AI. You have to pay a certain amount and you're going to learn different tools. So just interesting as like any one of you guys ever paid to learn certain AI applications besides just ChatGPT.
Yeah, no, I personally have not paid any subscriptions or any fees for any particular formal training. As I mentioned, it is a relatively new technology. What I've learned is from talking to the college students and or from experimenting and asking some research questions to ChatGPT myself. And that's the open platform that I've used. I have not necessarily fully extensively utilized DeepSeek. I've seen it on some other forums where it just recently, within the past week or so, has been implemented and somebody has downloaded it, and I've been able to see that and ask it questions through that manner. But I personally have not, and I am leery, repeat, I have not downloaded it into my personal phone because of that particular privacy statement, and I am not going to download it into my personal phone just because of what I mentioned in the whole conversation. So once again, I'll definitely send out, Mr. Mike Cruz, some articles from academia that have been written last year and are now released, but they're not in mainstream magazines, about artificial intelligence, the pros and cons, and what they are trying to achieve with it, right? But that's from a university. Now, DeepSeek, I don't really have too much information other than what I've seen in video streams and forums in that manner. So I'm not really versed or experienced in either or technology, to be honest. And the whole topic is to bring awareness to everybody that's listening, right? To at least have this conversation and to at least know that, hey, you're not alone in not really knowing too much. As you can see, the young students are also a little bit confused on what this technology and the implications of it are. And we, as experienced, more seasoned individuals, we're caught in the middle of it. And whether we like it or not, as was indicated before, it's here to stay in one way, form, shape, or another, and is going to be utilized in one way, shape, or another for household items like the Roomba. That one has artificial intelligence to some extent, right? Cars like Tesla is starting to implement it. Lucid is starting to implement it into the self-driving modes that is being utilized. So those things are navigated by artificial intelligence, and those are proprietary to that particular corporation. But at some extent, they're also using some codes and subroutines that are implemented by some of those open source platforms. So that's where we're at. And that's why I brought this conversation to the table, because this is where the current situation in the current world is moving to, right? It's very different than it was about a year and a half ago, to be honest with you. And if I see and if I look up and I'm a little bit concerned, I believe that there's others out there that are also just as concerned or as lost as I am. And I wanted to bring this awareness to the table. So thank you with that. Mina, any final thoughts?
Yes, I just have to say, Lazaro, that I think we are all privileged to be on your platform to bring this awareness.
Thank you.
This particular awareness is huge. Yeah. On my part, it's beyond me. And so had I not been part of this, I thought, oh my, how else? The television, which I haven't even turned on yet today, right. But I'm learning it all firsthand from you here. So thank you again for being innovative and doing what you do.
Thank you.
Success innovation.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And with that, muchas gracias. We'll see you next Wednesday. Hasta luego. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, today, Lunar New Year.
Yes.
When this all came out.
Right, exactly. Chinese Lunar New Year. Right.
It's a goal.
Yeah. Well, with that, have a good
goal.
Yeah. Hasta luego.
On their part. Bueno, hasta luego a todos.
Hasta luego.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Adios.
Adios.